Hello, I'm Sue Roper. I'm the president of the Tri-County Women Veterans Group, and here with me is...
I'm Dorothy Ebacher, and I was in the Navy.
I'm Diana Cox, and I was in the Air Force.
I'm Betsy Nolan. I was in the Navy.
I'm Susan Ongst. I was in the United States Air Force.
The Tri-County Women Veterans are proud to sponsor this episode of Central Florida Salute. Salute. Two.
Hello, welcome to Central Florida Salute YouTube. I'm your host, Bob Peters. And my guest today is Father David Randolf, who works in the prison system, and you're also a Navy veteran, and you are an Orthodox priest. Is that correct?
That's correct.
See, I got it all right. So, Father David, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where were you born?
I was born in Buffalo, New York, and then pretty much raised in Rochester, New York. I was a poster child for a dysfunctional family. And at the end of the 6th grade, I was removed from the home and lived in a children's home, or group home we call them today, until I was ready to be 17. And I ended up joining the Navy simply because I did not want to go back home.
Wow, that's sad, but those things happen, I guess, you know. And so you joined the Navy at 17?
Yes.
Did you have to have your parents sign, or no?
Yes.
Yeah. I guess they were glad to get rid of you.
Sorry, actually, it was
Father.
single parent, but
Oh, okay.
live-in boyfriend.
Oh, okay. So anyway, you went in the Navy. How long were you in the Navy?
3.5 years.
3.5 years. And what did you do in the Navy?
I had a tough job.
Yeah, you had a tough
They
job.
signed me up for corpsman school, and I said, no. I want to do something else. And they said, okay. So they shipped me to the Dam Neck, Virginia, which is the Fleet Anti-Warfare Training Center. And I thought I was going to go there for school, and I ended up going a ship company. The commander turned around and talked to me and said, no, you got too much education. I'm going to put you in charge of the gym. And because people come in the morning and night...
Time out. You got too much education at 17. You finished high school?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But that's not a whole lot of education.
Well, it was more than what... They didn't want me swabbing dicks, I guess.
What year is this now?
This is in the 60s.
In the 60s, okay. All right.
So, and because of the gym, people would come morning, noon, or night. They gave me an apartment off the gym. That's real tough duty.
So we got to do it, right?
Well, I was still a veteran. I would go to war if I had to.
Oh yeah. I'm sure you would have. So you lived at the gym, and you basically maintained the gym and took care of things.
Yes.
For 3.5 years?
3.5 years.
Why didn't you re-enlist? I would have.
No, I was ready to go out and be married and get on with my life.
Okay, so after the 3.5 years of being a gym rat, that's just a... Anyway, so you left the Navy. What happened then?
I went to a school called Empire State College, which was a non-traditional college where people who have master's degree, and got my undergraduate degree. From there, I went to also working and ended up being in the apartment management business. I was in property management before that, and then I went into the apartment management business.
So what were your degrees in?
Liberal arts, it was the business degrees.
Oh, okay.
And in 1976, a person said to me, was talking, just visiting, and I said, if I ever had my life to do over again, I would be a priest, and I would be involved in social concerns. And that's what I ended up doing. Went to seminary.
Yeah.
Here I am.
So just one day you said to yourself...
Well, I've said this several times, but this person called me on it in a way that kind of made me go like, whoa, wait a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Might be.
So you you went to the missionary and became a priest, or how's that?
Well, I went to, again, it was through non-traditional seminary training. I had 2 years at the University of South Biblical Study, and then 3 years in Orlando, Florida, and then 3 more years when I came into the Orthodox Church. So I had 8 years worth of theological training.
Wow, wow. So where was all this, up in New York?
2 of the years was in New York, and then 3 of the years was in Orlando, Florida, and then another 3 years here. In fact, I did it from Lake County.
So what brought you from New York down to Florida, other than the weather?
Well, the property managers that we managed was upstate New York and Georgia and Florida. I wanted to come down where it was warmer.
Yeah, most people do. Most people do. So you came down, and you're married now, or?
Yes, I'm married. My first wife passed, and I had 2 boys, and I married a woman with 2 boys and a girl.
Oh, good.
So,
Good. And she obviously wanted to come to Florida, or was she
well,
down
actually,
here
what happened
already?
was we were assigned up in South Carolina. I was the Lake County jail chaplain for 8 years, and then the Archdiocese sent me to South Carolina. I was there for 20 years. And my wife said to me one day, "I'm moving back to Florida. You want to go with me?" I go,
Like you had-
"Okay, I guess I better ask the bishop about retiring." And so I retired as a pastor. I still serve with a church in Ocala or Silver Springs, but my actual work is in the prison systems.
Yeah. What's the church in Ocala?
St. Basil the Great, and that's Silver Springs.
Silver Springs. Yeah, nice area. Uh, I met you here at the Eagles, and I know you involved with the veterans, and not just veterans inmates, but other inmates too. But I'm interested to learn about how you wound up in the prison system, on the right side of the bars.
Actually, my very first visit in prison was on death row.
Oh, wow.
And from death row, I then went to the main chapel. And again, it was a maximum security prison in Rayford,
Rayford, where?
Florida.
Florida? I don't know. I never heard of Rayford.
And I was sitting there. Between me was a fellow by the name of Jack Murphy, Murph the Surf, who was a rather famous jewel thief. And he ended up in prison. And the next to me was a hitman for the mafia. And I'm thinking, what am I doing here?
I'd have reservations myself, yeah.
Flying home, we were in a propeller flight, so I was listening to beautiful sunset, but my mind kept flashing back to that death row, the sounds and the smell, and just terrible. And I went home that night and I talked with my wife, and she says, "Your conversation just went like a railroad train, and it faster and faster and faster. All of a sudden, I stopped and I started weeping. I knew that I had a life sentence, but I go home every night."
Yeah, but you knew that was your calling.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and how long have you been doing this?
Since 1980.
Wow. You in the same, working with the same prison? Or how many prisons?
No. I have been involved in, at one point in time, 16, when we had a grant from the state. But that's one of the budget cuts that they seem to always make, and that ended out. So right now, I'm in 3. My main one, I work also with a group called Kairos, and we are Lake Correctional, and the in Bushnell and that prison there. I was a county jail chaplain for 8 years.
So I imagine you've met some rather interesting people.
I've had people who ended up being executed. I've had in county jail. I've had people. In fact, I remember one fellow who came out of prison, and he was so angry at his wife falling in love with somebody else, and he threatened and he said, "I'm going to kill them both." And I said, "Please don't do that." We talked and talked and talked and talked, and a year later, turned around and put a gun to both their heads, and so he was executed. So you never know. And then other times I've turned around and people say to me, "Hi, remember me?" And there's somebody who I'd worked with.
So well, you take the good with the bad, right? I mean,
That's correct.
And you know me being involved with the veterans community, and also here we are both fellow Eagles, and you know that I'm the chairman of the veterans committee here, and I'm interested in what they do in the prisons. I've heard of certain prisons that would have like a Legion post in it, or some kind of veterans group. I'm sure there's inmates in there who are very proud of their service, and you get to talk to them. You want to give me a little insight into any of that, or what?
Well, yes. At Lake or at where am I going? Here. When you become a certain age, you got to be able to look up what you're saying.
I know.
My key here is veterans in the criminal system, but how obstacles to overcome being released from prison, and what we can do with regard to that. And the prison that I go to, mainly here, and this is what I'm talking about, a paper that I just recently wrote, and that is, I got involved with they have 120 inmates at Sumter Correctional that are veterans.
That's a lot.
Honorably discharged veterans. Problems at home, making that adjustment, alcohol and drugs, can't find a job, becoming homeless. I, at the Office Depot, every day out to go out. The time I go there every day, but every time I go there, there's two men that are sitting out there as homeless. One has got his leg shot off, or cut off. These are both veterans. Mm-hmm. And they end up becoming homeless simply because they can't get a job. And the disability takes so long to get.
Yeah, and there's that saying, there are a lot of people who are just one paycheck away from being homeless, But,
Amen.
Yeah. So.
Any rate, what I really discovered was I was at Sumter, and I was doing pre-release counseling, preparing inmates for reentry back in society. And I discovered this dorm that they had about veterans. So I talked about it. When my son was 12 years old, he said to me, "Can I?" And he asked me a question, and he knew the answer was going to be no. I said, "Why did you ask that question?" He said, "Because the answer is no if you don't ask." I've been doing a little reading about post-stress, PTSD. And I noticed that they had a dorm there that were veterans. So I said, well, they'll probably tell me they've got a therapist there and like that, but the answer is no if I don't ask. So I called, and they got excited about it, and I came in and talked about the program that I think I would like to put together related to PTSD. Mm-hmm. In fact, next Wednesday, we're not only going to veterans, we're moving it out to the entire compound, being available to come in for classes and therapy.
Yeah, because, PTSD, everybody associates that with veterans, but it also, like firemen, or just even an ordinary citizen could go through a tragic event that could trigger it. It's not just the veterans thing, but unfortunately, veterans, police, and firemen, they see a lot that most people don't see. So it's more prevalent,
In fact, second responders is one of the individuals that we sometimes have to work with as chaplaincy ministry, reaching out to them, because sometimes I live in Hawthorne, and in Hawthorne we have first responding programs, and we work with them as chaplains. Who we trained how to be a chaplain, not to be ordained, but train them to be a chaplain, and we're trying to work with not only the person who's going through the trauma, but dealing with the first offenders.
You must be pretty busy. You must be pretty busy, huh?
Yes.
Do they call you up and say, "Hey, I got a problem here.
Yes.
Can you come
Yeah,
in?"
we can't. If it's a problem at one of the homes, we cannot go until we're called.
Mm-hmm.
Because the person has to be able to say they'd like to have a chaplain come. But my main focus is working at Lake Correctional with a group called Kairos, and the other one relating to what we're talking about here, inmates being in the prison
Do
system.
you have other priests that you work with there? Or primarily
Actually, this program here I do out on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Though I'm going to I'll be 79 pretty soon, a few more days, and I'm looking for someone that I can train to take my place so I don't pass in the wind and the program goes out the door.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, because there's a need for that, big need. But so tell me, like I said to you before, I know some of these prisons, the inmates have their own American Legion or this and that. Do you see any of that in yours? Or they have a group which it's just the veterans that get together? Or
Well, they actually live together at Sumter.
so they put the veterans
So
together?
they're all in a area there. And there they get education classes, personal counseling classes, myself dealing with the PTSD, life management skills, looking at them to work with various programs and help them make an adjustment back into
And
it.
then they bring in the family member or no?
Yeah, well, I'm not.
That's not yours, but I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm not
it's
sure
part
how
of
they.
that, right?
Well, I teach them how to be at least a better father,
Yeah.
and I do that part of my life management skills program. Also, they work with them alcohol and drugs, and those kind of problems that they may end up having.
So do the veterans get together and like say on Veterans Day and have a
Yes, they do.
ceremony?
And every in fact, they have a VFW honor guard, and that's primarily what they do. They serve at any ceremony that they have, whether it be the graduation of a program, they're honor guard. Of course, they don't have any real guns.
I would think not.
But these guys they wear a uniform, same as, and
And they're proud veterans.
So
They're proud to have served their country, which is, I'm glad they're getting help. I'm glad guys like you are there to help them. It's do you know anything about the Veterans Court? You deal with
Yes,
them?
I do. In fact, I got a little paper regarding that. The Veterans Court is a person who's first responder, but they're in the veterans. The neat thing about the program there is they're ordered to go to counseling. They're ordered to go through GED if they haven't got their education. They're ordered to go through classes. And if they do not do that, you're going back. And I went to the court system one day and I watched a young girl with a baby. And somebody was holding the baby. And she said, well, what am I going to do about my child? Social service will take care of that until they make an adjustment. You're going back to prison. And she didn't want to obey the rules. They're concerned, and it's a very excellent program, but it's there, and it's there to help them make an adjustment.
I did a show a few years back with a lady and a gentleman who, this is when they first started, I think, in Lake County, because the Veterans Court had been in other counties prior to Lake County.
Right.
And what they do is they get a veteran to be like, work with them,
Yes.
So I was I was just, and the crimes they commit are not, major crimes.
Oh, no, if they commit a murder, they're not going to.
And then you get a veteran, say you'd be a veteran, so you'd be like my mentor.
Yes.
To try to help me get through what I get through, and then if they're successful, they could drop the charges.
That's right.
But that's, like I said, it's not for major crimes, but yeah, I guess Veterans Court is still going on.
It's going, and it's an excellent one. I was very excited about seeing it happen there.
Yeah. So You want to tell me a little bit more about the inmate, the veterans you deal with?
Well, again, a lot of it is related to, again, life management skills is helping them find a job and learn how to manage their money once they get a job, and the like. All kinds, everything from. I took a fellow by the name of Abraham Maslow, which wrote a hierarchy of and what he calls primary, I call food, clothing, and housing. If you don't have any housing, where are you going to go? How are you going to buy your food? You don't go to 7-Eleven and buy your groceries. Education. You want to further your education. And then we move to dealing belonging, dealing with your immediate family and extended family, and just right on up to that personal development, where they're constantly looking and working to work with.
So, Father, primarily when you work with the inmates, you're dealing with PTSD, not just veterans, but all kinds of people, inmates, right?
That and life management skills.
And life management skills.
Preparing them for re-entry back in society. Mm-hmm. How they look for work, how they manage their money, how they deal with relationships with people in their particular home. When a person, they come in and they accepted Jesus, and now they're saved. And so they walk in the house and afterwards and walk to the wife and say, "Well, I'm in charge of the household." Oh yeah, you weren't before. You weren't while you were in. Now you're going to be.
I've never been in charge of my house.
I tell people that as the head of the household, you have the last words, and let me give you the words. Yes, dear.
Yeah, very good, very well put.
But again, what I want to do is try to put some very practical application in their lives, whether it be PTSD or life management skills, so that they don't have relapsing back.
That's where I was going to ask you about. Okay, they get the skills and the training with the PTSD and everything. And they come out, and sometimes they can fall back. Do they have somebody that they can call and say, "Listen, I think I'm slipping," or?
Depends upon where they know. From a state prison system, it's a little more difficult because they're all over the place. My dream, if I could turn around and wave a magic wand, would be to convince the churches to say, "You know what? These guys need to be able to come to my church. How do I work with an offender? What do I do to help that veteran back into the prison system and put some practical application?" I got a finder here quickly, a list of things that we should be working with in the offender. There. How do I serve a veteran in prison or the legal system? If allowed, visit them in prison. If allowed, serve with a practicing ministry. Say thank you for your service and mean it. People say, "How are you?" and they don't have a clue what they're asking. That happened to me one time at a restaurant, and I complained for 15 minutes to the waitress. Help deal with the homeless issues. Help deal with the legal issues such as evictions and foreclosure and slumlords. Feed a veteran, maybe even take them to lunch. Make home repairs and help with yard work if they're for needy veterans. Take time to listen to their stories, their needs. Be a friend. Provide transportation if needed. Help them with therapeutic services and lead them to trained therapists. Welcome to your church. Provide a ride. And if there's a family, be of aid to them and pray with them and for them. These are simple things that anybody can do.
Yeah, I have a very good friend of mine, Jason White, and he has a couple of organizations he works with. One of them is the Birdwell Foundation, and he has a saying which I think is right spot on: nobody heals alone. And that's what we need. We need all these people, organizations, churches, what have you, and you're doing a great job, Father, but to reach out and realize.
Well, if there's any members of churches, get a hold of that pastor, sit down, have them come talk with them, and start something in your church, because I went one time as a homeless person, and for over 30 days I walked the streets of Orlando. I was in a church where I was asked to leave. A church asked a homeless person to leave.
That's not right. Sorry, it's not right.
You know, and so I think is these people are there. They need help, and in fact, purely from an economic point of view, it's cheaper to help them get adjusted than it is to pay for them in prison.
Oh yeah. You know, I agree with you there, and because you know what, we don't really do enough for homeless people. Not just military homeless people, but any kind of homeless people. We don't have a lot of facilities that do that, and I agree with you. If we all work together, wouldn't it be great? If people wanted to try to do this, so the other churches, can they get a hold of you?
Yes, I will allow you to use my card and put it up at the end of your show or something like that with your pictures. But it's Christ the Savior at bellsouth.net is my email. By the way, Savior is Savior, the old British way of spelling it. But other than that, it's simply Christ the Savior at bellsouth.net, or my phone number, 864-230-8438. I'd love to send you this copy of this paper that I wrote, if you'd like to read it, and help you understand what PTSD is and how it relates to that.
There are a lot of great organizations out there. There's one with my friend Theo Bob and George Wanberg, and they meet with a bunch of veterans, and they talk about, you know, half of them are African American and the other half are white, and they talk about the challenges and trying to get things back together. And there are a lot of organizations, PTSD and everything, but you're right. There's a lot of separate little organizations, but they all need to work together, you know. And I give you a lot of credit for what you're trying to do, Father. And I know you have helped a lot of people over the years. How many years?
Since 1980.
Wow. Well, we got your name out there. We get your address and everything, and I think we're running out of time. So you know how we do this. You've seen how we end the show, and you being a veteran, you know how to salute.
Yes, sir.
So join me, will you? To all our veterans out there, our active military and their families, we salute you for all you do. Till next time. Thank you, Father.
My pleasure.
Let me get out of your way.
Since 2009, Project SOS has assisted our veterans both overseas and here at home to overcome medical issues, homelessness, and disabilities. Initially, our efforts resulted in over 22 clinics opened in Iraq and Afghanistan. Recently, as troops have been withdrawn, we have concentrated on issues here at home. During this past year, we have been able to distribute 42 motorized wheelchairs and numerous mobility devices to our local veterans who have served in World War II and up to and including Afghanistan. We continue to offer solutions to our local homeless veterans in the Ocala National Forest and other Central Florida locations. Project SOS Support Our Soldiers needs your assistance to continue helping a growing homeless veterans population. Over-the-counter medications and personal hygiene supplies are acutely needed. Your financial aid will greatly increase the support they so desperately need.